It's totally fine. I have a lot more stories.
That you do.
Yeah.
That you do.
Guilty as charged with the stories.
Hola, aloha, and shalom, my friends. Welcome once again to I've Got Something to Say, the podcast where I tell you a story about some point in my life and you listen to it. This week's episode is entitled The Samurai and the Strawberry. So, when I was a young man at one point in my life, I heard the story of the samurai and the strawberry. And I believe this is a fairly famous Buddhist tale, but short version, the story goes like this. There was a samurai out walking around in Japan who all of a sudden was being chased by a tiger that snuck up behind him. Which is interesting because I don't think there are tigers in Japan, but that's how the story goes. So the tiger chases him. He's running as fast as he can, and he sees a cliff up ahead of him. He doesn't know what else to do, so he jumps over the edge of the cliff. As he is falling down, he grabs a branch that he sees hanging out from the cliff, and he's hanging precariously from this branch. He looks down below and sees several hundred feet below him a river with lots of rocky outcroppings sticking up and what appears to be a number of alligators and crocodiles starting together, seeing his situation and waiting for him to fall. Again, I don't think there are alligators or crocodiles in Japan, but that's how the story goes. So he's hanging onto this branch and he looks around and he sees no other footholds or handholds around him. Up above him is the tiger snarling, growling, drooling down upon him, swiping with his paw just out of reach of the claws of the tiger is our samurai hanging there. He looks down and he sees the rocks that would surely smash his body to a pulp if he fell, and the alligators and crocodiles that are waiting to eat him when he does fall. And in that moment, he sees a wild strawberry vine that's growing out from the cliff, and on the end of the vine is the most ripe, red, beautiful strawberry he's ever seen in his life. And in that moment, with alligators below, with the tiger striking at him from above, he reaches out with his free hand, plucks the strawberry, puts it in his mouth, eats it, and exclaims, "Oh my God, it's delicious." That's the end of the story. I had a hard time, and I never understood what it meant until a little bit later in my life. And I think, I don't know, but I think the meaning is when everything's going to shit, look for something around you where you can just live in the moment and enjoy some little thing that's happening when everything else seems to be terrible. I saw this in action at one point in high school via a dear, dear friend of mine. And I want to tell you a little bit about this guy. When I was in junior high school, I had just gone from grade school, went to junior high school. I had a lot of friends, I think, in grade school, but we weren't in the same activities or groups necessarily. So we go to junior high and people start getting put into groups like the band group or the soccer group. I was not with any of my friends, so I felt very, very alone. And as I'm sure every middle school / junior high school kid felt, I just felt like a loser. So I was in my math class and Mrs. Schweitz was the teacher, and we would do tests or papers or whatever, and she would always have us call out our score. And so people would say, 75, 100. I don't know why. I think it was entertaining to me, but I would, after my score, instead of just saying like 100 or saying 100%, I would say 100 percentile. And I would pronounce it very specific like that. 100 percentile. And I was doing it not to entertain anyone but myself. But after about the third or fourth day of doing that, I was walking out of class and this kid came up to me and goes, "Hey man, what's your name?" I'm like, "Well, I'm Chris. What's your name?" "I'm Mike, man. That is really hilarious when you say percentile." I'm like, oh my God, I found my kindred spirit. This is amazing. This guy thinks what I'm doing is funny. His name was Mike Gover. He was a dumb kid just like me who did stuff that he thought was funny that nobody else except for maybe me thought was funny. So Mike and I started hanging out. We would spend the night at each other's houses, and he was hilarious. And whereas I was always afraid of getting into trouble, he kind of relished it, and he loved to make people uncomfortable. And one thing that I've never seen nor heard of any other kid doing, but when we would be at his house and it was time to leave to go somewhere, his mom would want to say goodbye, and he would start to approach his mom rather lustily, I guess, and would grab her and try and force her into a very passionate kiss, tongue included, saying, "Oh, Mom, don't fight your feelings. Let's just let this happen. We've both wanted this for so long." And she would be saying things like, "Oh my God, Michael, stop it. I just want to say goodbye. Stop. No." But to him, this was hilarious. Well, and to me, this was hilarious too. So it's funny how life tends to go in cycles and repeat itself. So Mike and I were best pals, good friends. But as fate would have it, he went to one high school and I went to a different one. So I go to high school. Once again, I feel like I have no friends. Nobody cares about me. Everybody thinks I'm ugly and stupid. And I end up meeting another great friend. I actually had a debate partner who was going to move away. So he said, "Hey, let me set you up with another debate partner. His name's Paul. Let's all spend the night at my house." So we go over to Rob's house and I meet this Paul fellow. We hit it off. We chat all night just like two women at the hair salon. We cannot be quiet. And we're cracking each other up and we're having fun. And oh my gosh, I've met another kindred spirit. I can't believe it. So I introduce Paul to my friend Mike. And it took a minute, but they ended up hitting it off. Well, I think the reason it took a minute, Mike was wearing a fishing hat, kind of like McLean Stevenson wore in MASH. Only instead of having like fly fishing lures in the hat, he had like fishing worms in the hat. So they were hanging down around his face over the brim of the hat, kind of a la dreadlock style, I guess. But Paul and Mike hit it off. And this is the point where I want to do something different and deviate from the way we normally do this show. But Paul, this story involves a time that you and I were involved together in something with Mike and another friend of ours.
Now, this is the first time that and I know Frank from San Diego has called in a couple times, but this is the first time that I'm involved in the story.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is exciting to me, but
I'm quite excited.
I didn't think it would be fair for me to tell this story without having you in here to put your input in.
And also, I'm right here.
Right. You're right here, so it would be really awkward if I told this story about you as if you weren't even here.
Right.
Plus, this will be a good opportunity. We know from eyewitness testimony and things that memory can change over the years.
Oh, okay.
So this will be a chance for us to test each other's memory of this
quite topical in
particular
the news,
story. It is.
Okay.
It fits right in with lots of things that
about
have been
35
happening.
years ago.
Yes. So, as I recall this story, Paul, you and I had a friend.
I know what you're going to say.
She was a girl, and she worked at a swimming pool as a lifeguard that also had a golf course attached to it. It was called Cracker Neck.
Yes.
Which you'd find the Red Robin and the Panera there now. No longer there. But so she told us, "Hey, my boss said anytime I want to, I can go swimming at night after the pool's closed." Am I right on this so far?
So far, yeah.
Okay. So we say, "Hey, Gover, why don't you come with us to the pool? Me and Paul and Peggy are going to go. We'll go. We'll have a great time at the swimming pool."
Right.
You drove.
Yes.
We took your car, Purple Rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We get to Cracker Neck. Peggy's got a key. She unlocks the pool. We're under the cover of darkness. We go in to frolic and laugh and have fun in the pool. As I recall, I know I was in the pool. I don't know where you or Peggy, if you guys were both in the pool as well. Okay.
I was in the pool.
So Mike is climbing up the diving board, the high dive. Because we're having fun. We're swimming in the pool. Peggy's boss said it was okay. This is going to be fine. All of a sudden, we hear the frantic whir of golf cart wheels coming up. And we see a spotlight kind of bouncing along the horizon coming upon us. So we all kind of take cover. I know I grabbed the side of the pool and sort of put
And
my
I don't
head
know if I
down.
was right next to you, but I was doing the same thing.
Okay.
Trying to like hide under, not necessarily underwater, but under the edge of the swimming pool.
Yeah, trying to keep our head below the edge of the
Right.
pool. Well, poor dumb bastard Mike, he's up on the high dive. So the guy comes up and he's like, all right, who's there? I know somebody's here. And we're all just being quiet. And at this point, Mike has laid down prone on his stomach on the diving board. Am I right about
That's
this?
right, yeah.
Yeah. So he's flashing the light around and he stops and just trains the light right on where Mike is laying down on the diving board. And did he say anything to him at that point?
I don't remember if he said anything, but I know that Mike knew the jig was up.
Yes, he did. Yes, so the light's on Mike. Now, I know that Mike didn't say anything.
Okay.
And I remember looking up there, and I am just like frozen in my tracks, like, oh my God, we are caught. This is terrible.
Right.
The world is ending. This is going to go on my permanent record.
Right.
Oh God. And I look up, and Mike, very deliberately and in no hurry, stands up in place where he is. He gets very erect in his posture, puts his arms down in front of his body, arms straight, hands together, and then puts them out to his side in like a cross figure, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And again, he's perfectly silhouetted in the spotlight, saying nothing, looking straight ahead. And he strides down toward the end of the diving board and then plants his feet on the end of the diving board, bends down with his knees, jumps up into the air to increase his bounce with his head then leaving the circle of the spotlight, comes back down, lands again in the same position, jumps up, again, arms out, and then he comes down a third time, goes off of the diving board.
Right.
The approach is finished. Now he's in the air.
Right.
His-
But he didn't dive. He just jumped.
he
right?
just jumped.
Yeah.
He just jumped.
He was presenting like he was going to do an Olympic dive, and all he did was jump.
Yes, he went down the diving board and did his bounces on the end as if he were Greg Louganis in the 1984 Olympics. And then he's slicing through the air with the spotlight following him, toes pointed, arms straight out to his side, and makes a beautiful splash-free landing. It was amazing. Now,
I wonder if we have the same memory of what happens next.
so here's my memory of what happens next. Is I start laughing,
Right.
and the spotlight comes to me.
That's what I remember is because we all started laughing.
We all started laughing.
We couldn't help it.
No, because it was so perfect, which
Right.
was typical Mike. God.
Right.
So I remember the spotlight coming to me and me saying, "Oh, I'm sorry. Is the pool closed, sir?" Do I have that right?
I think so.
God. And so then the security guard didn't find the dive or the question funny or engaging
No.
at all.
And they were.
They were both at least funny or engaging.
Right. So
So then he says, "Hey, I've already got the license plate number from your car. The police are on your way. You better stay here." Now, do you remember it that way?
yes.
Okay. Because what I remember then is we're like, well, we could stay here, but also fuck that. Let's go.
Yes, that's right.
So we all get in your car and we take off. And in my mind, I mean, you know, your car's spinning out in the back and fishtailing, and we're getting the hell out of Crackerneck.
Right.
So I don't remember where Mike and Peggy went, but I believe you and I went back to your house.
Yes.
To spend the night. and we were terrified that the cops were going to be hot on our tail.
Yes. And I wasn't allowed to do this, but I put my car in the garage. One of my brothers had an old car in there, and it was a tight fit, and I scraped my car.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Okay, that's what I remember, but
we had to do it because the cops were going to be driving around every neighborhood.
The cops were going to be hot on our trail for being in the Crackerneck pool. The way I remember it was you were not allowed to put your car in the garage, but we opened it up, and your brother Steve's friend Hondro's car
something
was
like
in
that.
there.
Yeah,
I think it was Hondro's. I guess Hondro was allowed to put his car.
but it was like a junk car. It was like they were working on it or something. Yeah,
and you had like a big oversized 2-car garage, but they decided to park it right in the middle. Yeah.
I squeezed it in and scratched the side of it.
So you squeezed your car in, scratched it all up, and the next morning, so I believe that was going to be that was the start of our junior year, the end of summer, right before our junior year, and we were both on student council exec board, and we had the welcome freshman assembly the next day, and you and I both had to speak at that, and I just remember sitting up there the next day, and I knew in my heart of hearts that at any moment the SWAT team was going to break in every entrance of the auditorium at that high school and come. And I mean, I could just see the doors flying open with the battering ram and a guy go, 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 and us being thrown down and cuffed, and that being the end of my life in front of everybody in high school. It didn't happen that way, though.
No, it didn't.
Turns out the cops had better things to do than come after some dumb kids that broke into the Crackerneck pool. So I'm glad, actually, our memories are pretty in sync on how that all came down.
For that story, right?
Yes, for that one. Right. So, and the sad part about that story is that at Kansas State University, just a few short years later, our good buddy Mike passed away. Tragic, untimely, way too soon. Horrible. The good news is, every time in my mind's eye I see his graceful approach down that diving board, his bounces on the end, and his beautiful entry into the air, I cannot help but smile at my friend Mike. Miss you, buddy. Well, that's it for this edition of I've Got Something to Say. I'm Chris Whiting. Thank you so much for listening, taking some time. I hope you felt like it was worth your time. As always, special thanks to my good buddy Paul for making this happen and the folks at KCTK Radio. And extra special thanks for being a part of the story today, Paul. We will be back at you next week with another story. Until then, be good.